Hey everyone, welcome back to another week of the Livvin for Food Pod. I'm bringing another incredible founder your way this week. Bala Sarda created VAHDAM Teas, which is a natural and organic Indian tea brand. The brand is actually loved by some recognizable faces like Oprah Winfrey or Ellen DeGeneres or Mariah Carey. Bala was actually named Fortune's 40 Under 40, Forbes 30 Under 30, GQ's 25 Most Influential Young Indians, and he started this company at age 22. We dug deep into entrepreneurial advice, we talked about his bestseller, and we talked about the key to his success. So please join me in welcoming the wonderful Bala Sarda.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you so much for taking the time out today. I appreciate it, and welcome to my podcast. And it's really great to meet you. I know we have a big time difference right now.
Likewise, Olivia. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Very excited to be here. And yes, good evening from India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning from LA, California. By the way, this is not me like sucking up to you or anything, but I have your spices and teas in my pantry right now, and I've been using them.
Love it.
So,
Love it.
I love
Always great speaking to customers.
Definitely. So before we get into the business side of things, I'd love to learn kind of more about you, about your background. It seems that you've always had this entrepreneurial spirit. You were the founder of a digital marketing company in college. What was the journey in between you studying business and then transitioning to being the founder of a tea company?
Right. Absolutely, Olivia. So I think, if I can go back in my journey, I obviously grew up, in a family which has been in tea for the last 90 years. I'm actually the fourth generation in my family
Wow.
to do something in tea. So pretty much
No,
the
okay.
oldest family involved in tea. But I think the family business was more passion than profits. I think it was a small family business led by a very passionate set of people who were trying to make available fine Darjeeling teas. And my father is born and brought up in the region of Darjeeling in northeast India, and the place where the finest tea in the world comes from. And
Oh,
growing up, of course, a lot of my early childhood memories, my early holidays have been in tea estates. Tasting teas with my dad on Sundays, so on and so forth, right? So that's been the overall journey. But growing up, I absolutely had no idea that I will join and do something in tea, because to be very, very honest, from the outside, it seemed very, very boring, commoditized. There was while we made some of the best teas in the world, and if you go and taste a cup of fresh Indian tea in one of the estates, you will really understand, what I'm talking about here. But unfortunately, all these products were, of course, exported in bulk at single-digit margins by folks in India, right? To foreign brands who would obviously then sell it to consumers, right? So I think from a business perspective, it seemed very boring and monotonous. So I never thought I will do this. And I, like you said, right, I always had an entrepreneurial bug, right? I always wanted to do something of my own, create something. I always used to get enamored by all these business success stories. So I used to love reading, autobiographies of a lot of these successful people very early on in my childhood, and more than I should have, because you have to study and give exams as well. So, but yeah, and I think that's really what got me to do something of my own. And I, in my undergrad, right, which was a 3-year course, I was actually running a couple of companies. One was a digital marketing company.
right.
I always understood digital very well, right? So I used to do social media marketing. Now, of course, it's very, very common, but I think back in the day, this is 2009, 2010, you had to go and convince brands that, hey, you should get a Facebook page, you should get Instagram was not even launched then. And I used to do that and then run, social media marketing for a bunch of these brands in India, right? And it grew to a certain size, and, as much of a size as a part-time sort of stint could have done. So it was pretty good, but a lot of learnings. on how you sort of start a business and build a business and get clients and do client servicing and all of those nuances of running a business, of course, at a much smaller scale. I was also doing a youth marketing company, so we had a network of over 1,000 kids, college kids in multiple cities in India, who were a part of this initiative, and we used to connect with brands, to sort of target to sort of some of these people in this TG, right? So that was also a very exciting experience. Taught me a lot about team building, how to motivate people, how to build ownership and understand how the dynamics of a large setup from a team perspective works, right? So very, very fascinating journey, even that. But again, when I was done with my undergrad, I knew that I had to do something real. I had to do something which can scale up, something which I can do full time, something which had a grander vision, if I could put it like that. And that's really when, I decided to sort of start looking at a lot of these industries. And one of them which really intrigued me was the consumer space, right? If you go back in 2012, Olivia, I think one of the trends which had come was that the internet is democratizing consumer brand building. So there would be this massive wave of new brands which would come in every industry, because earlier the only way to build brands was through traditional media, and the per unit value of traditional media is very expensive, right? So you can only get a full page ad in a certain magazine, and getting that one ad, even if it's a quarter page, is like phenomenally expensive, right? So that's the reason a lot of new brands were not being built, and a lot of these legacy players were doing what they were doing for several decades, to be honest. But the internet changed that, right? You could open a page in social media, do very, very micro targeting, start a campaign with a budget of $5. It just flipped the game, and it democratized everything, because you had the same power to do that what a Unilever would probably have, right? Or a CPG giant like P&G would. So I think that's really what got me to start thinking about doing something in the consumer space, given my background in digital marketing. And in terms of what product I need to do, I think the obvious answer and choice was not tea, right? Because like I said, right, I mean, growing up, I thought it's just very boring, commoditized. But I actually ended up spending 3 months. We have a small holiday house in Darjeeling, and I ended up spending 3-4 months right after my undergrad to, just introspect, think of multiple ideas, research in multiple industries. And that's really when it just clicked that, tea and building a brand which takes India's finest teas to the world, India's finest spices to the world, because of the fact that India makes the best teas in the world, 25% of the world's production, the largest exporter of spices, makes the best spices in the world. I think that opportunity was tremendous. And given nobody had done it, I think it made me feel even more passionate about the problem, because it also told me that, this could be a difficult journey, but if you can try and do it, I think it could, sort of garner something phenomenal, right? So that's really, I can go deeper in that, but that's really how the idea of VAHDAM came about. And that's really how, I started VAHDAM.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of points there that I want to get into eventually, but would you say your parents, because you mentioned that you were in the family business for quite a while, would you say that they were entrepreneurs in your life as well, and that they kind of influenced you and inspired you to start this company?
No, 100%, Olivia. So I think just going back on that step, right? So my family has been in tea for 90 years, but when I decided that I want to start a tea brand of my own, and unlike what my family business was, which was bulk exports and retail primarily, I wanted to build a brand and take the best of India to the world under a homegrown label, right? I decided to join my family business to sort of learn the tricks of the trade, to sort of understand what's really happening there. And it just made sense to do that for a couple of years before I took the plunge. So I did work in the family business for 3 years, before 2.5 years, to be honest, before I started VAHDAM. And absolutely right. I think more than doing something in tea, I think the roots of entrepreneurship definitely stems from from my family, from my parents, from my father. Actually, to be honest, I'm a Marwadi, right? That's the caste I'm from in India, and it's very, very, we often joke about that. All Marwadis end up becoming businessmen. So 100%, learned that from my father. In fact, I think my upbringing was very, very interesting. I tell this to a few people. I've not obviously talked about it publicly too often. But I think my upbringing
Okay.
was very interesting because, at one side I had my father, who was this very, very ambitious entrepreneur, very passionate about his business, didn't
Mhm.
care about profits too much, wanted to sort of create an impact with what he was doing, was a big risk taker, right? So I think a
Okay.
lot of the seeds of entrepreneurship and me deciding not to go for an MBA, not to do, just getting over with whatever little under education I had to do and take the plunge. I think that definitely stems from him. And of course, my mom
Mhm.
was a typical, middle class homemaker who would, in
Okay.
India, like, who would sort of maximize the dollar in every way possible, right? In every dollar she would spend, she would maximize that. And you need that in entrepreneurship, right? You need how to, growth hack your way to sort of building a business with the least possible resources. And money is a critical resource when you're trying to build a business. So I think that blend growing up.
Teach me how to do that. I do not maximize my money.
Exactly, right. So I think that blend really helped me, because when I started, I think you need the balance of taking risk, being ambitious, doing that, taking those strides, hustling your way in, growing your business, but at the same time, how are you frugal? How do you maximize the dollar you have? And all of that, I think came. So I think a great mix of between my parents, and I think that's really what is really a part of what I have been doing for the last 8 years at VAHDAM anyways. So
That's incredible. I would love to ask you too, because you mentioned that this is something that wasn't really seen before. India wasn't really doing it. You have a direct to consumer kind of business model. When you started this company and then kind of became a successful face from it, did you ever feel pressure to represent India or the spices and food and beverage accurately?
what do you mean by accurately, Olivia?
Like, did you ever feel pressure to represent India well, considering that no one has done this space before?
Yeah, yeah. No, no, absolutely. I think, Olivia, honestly, uh, I think that's an interesting question. Definitely, right? I think if you look at, I talk about this quite often, right? If you look at brands, and if you look at, how people perceive countries, and I mean, I think the
Right.
thesis is all very, very interconnected. You trust a
Mhm.
brand, a person, a country when, they do this, when they do the right thing and they do it consistently over many, many years. And that's how you build trust. And trust is brand, right? Ultimately, everything
Right.
you believe in, right, from an Apple to a Nike, you trust what they say, and you trust the product, and you trust the mission and the values. And I think one of the challenges very early on, right, which I had to address, was how do you solve for that perception of a country which is not known to have too many brands, right? If you look at the American
Right.
market today, right, 80% of the world's turmeric comes from India, right? 25% of the world's tea comes from India. In fact, more than that in the United States. But, the trust factor was being added by local brands who would go to origin in India, procure that, and bring that trust, in front of the consumers, right? And I said, we have to change that, right? And how do you change that? Is by making an exceptional quality product, of course, right? Having a brand story which is something which people, consumers, can connect to, and sort of doing that consistently over many, many years. And that's really one of the things I had sort of intrinsically understood, that it's going to be an uphill challenge, because it's while America is an amazing country and they understand brands, I think positioning India and taking a product which is sourced from India, produced to consumers from an Indian brand, I think would have its fair set of challenges initially. And for that, like I
Right.
said, right, we did that very, very obsessively for the first few years, and we still are obsessed about that. And I think that's really helped us sort of get to where we are, at least
Mhm.
today, in front of our consumers. Because on paper, it all makes sense, right, Olivia? We all, as a consumer, you would want to buy wine from France, chocolates from Switzerland, whiskey from
Mhm.
Scotland, right? We all trust origin products, right? It just makes more sense, because that if this product is coming from origin, it will be higher, the chances of this product being genuine, better, fresher, without going through multiple middlemen. So it made sense. How do
Right.
you present that to consumers is really what VAHDAM has been about. And we have sort of, at every touch point, right from disrupting how we source the product, right? We source it direct from farmers, direct from tea estates. We talk very
Mhm.
transparently about that to our consumers, so that they can get direct access to where VAHDAM teas are sourced from. We have one of the most prolific state-of-the-art facilities in Delhi, right? It's a BRC certified food facility with all global certifications. It's a Costco audited, Costco approved facility, right? And it's probably one of the better tea packaging facilities in the world, if I could put it like that, right? So we did all of that to ensure that we can, ensure that the product is as fresh as it is in the gardens. And also, obviously, we talk about it to our consumers. We let consumers visit us to sort of see what we are doing. And then, of course, we ship it out direct to consumers and talk about our brand story, our origins, our legacy, our 90 years history, everything we are trying to do around the social piece, right? I mean, we do a lot of work there, and I'll talk about that, right? I think the biggest reason, or what the biggest thing which drives us today at VAHDAM is the fact that, while we are building this brand, I think if we are able to make it more and more successful, it helps directly impact the lives of farmers back in India.
I saw you have a program where you give 1% back.
Absolutely.
Or is that a teaching program?
Absolutely. Yeah. We do a bunch of programs. I'd love to talk about it, but absolutely, I think building a brand, would help empower these folks in the long run, the millions of farmers, retain value in India. And that's really the only way to have true trickle down effect, right? Fair trade, as you know, Olivia, fair trade certification is relatively easy to get, right? You pay a small premium, which is a 1-2% premium on your buying price, and you can get the certification. To be honest, it's actually that straightforward. But I think our understanding is fair trade is much larger than that, right? I think fair trade is genuinely understanding how is the life of that farmer back home in India. What are their kids doing? What's their future? Are they getting paid properly? Are they getting enough resources? Are they getting the right education? And that's really what we decided to sort of do at VAHDAM, and because of which today we have a bunch of these initiatives. Of course, we have all the certifications, right? So we are today, and I'm actually announcing this unofficially, we are now a B Corp certified brand, and we will announce it on our social pages in the next couple of weeks. Thank you. We just got that certification, a couple of weeks back, and we are preparing the outreach. We are a climate neutral certified brand. We are a plastic neutral certified brand, which means we sort of, recycle more plastic than we use. We offset every carbon footprint we sort of put out on the environment, and we sort of offset that with our initiatives in renewable energy and a bunch of these things we do in India. And these are all certified by US bodies, right? At the same time, we have an initiative called Teach Me, right? Where we said it's a larger problem to solve, where education is really the problem, and we can't become a part of any initiative. We have to be that initiative. So we launched this initiative called Teach Me, where a minimum 1% of our revenue, which tends to be 10% of our profits, to the education of our tea growers' children, right? Where we can help them educate them better. And it's done through a bunch of initiatives where we sort of make digital learning accessible. We do direct scholarships. We partner with a lot of NGOs to get this done. And that's also one of the big things we are doing, and which we very, very transparently talk about, right? So I think it's much more, and I think that's really the why of what we are doing at VAHDAM. We sell, of course, what do we sell? Is teas, spices, but the why of that is, to ensure that we can take the best of India to the world under a homegrown label, which can also give back to the value chain here in India. And that's really the mission with which we are working and building this brand, every day here at VAHDAM.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I think everyone should be educated on their farmers and their lives and whatever else they're doing, because that's something that a lot of consumer-based practices are just lacking, quite honestly. And I think too, I want to go back to you saying being ethical and being honest is kind of the pillars of your company. What about the supply process is lacking now in other consumer practices? Is it that ethical and honest kind of values, or maybe it's something deeper?
Absolutely. So one is, I'm sorry, Olivia, I'm having a cup of VAHDAM tea. I unfortunately can't offer it to you because we are doing this virtually. But
I have some in my cabinet.
I think we should, if you feel free to join the party and make a cup for yourself.
Amazing. I will later, right after this. I'll send you a picture.
Absolutely. No, so I think on a serious note, I think on your question, I think, Olivia, my sense is, I think I'm amazed by how entrepreneurs and businesses are genuinely I think I will give them the benefit of doubt. And I think a lot of them are genuinely putting a lot of effort to be conscious around the people they work with, the environment and everything around it. So I would not say that, there are people like, people are, and I would not make the claim that other competitors are not doing that. I think our stance here is very, very simple that, ultimately, direct trade is truly direct trade when you buy from the source, right? Direct trade can't be when, you buy with 10 middlemen in between, right? And direct trade is the answer to long-term sustainability for the farmers at origin, and that's really the only way you can retain value at source. And retaining value at source, a higher value at source, is the only way you can bring a trickle down effect, to get farmers and everybody in that value chain get a better price for what they're doing. And that's fundamentally, if you look at any country, right, look at Japan, I think one of the big reasons they have flourished because of, the kind of brands which came from Japan, right? Which is right from, electronics or like a Sony to a lot of these automobile companies, right? Look at China, right? I think China, because of, their high-end manufacturing, which they did, right? No matter what, they have built a skill set, right? And I think I'll recently quote what a Tim Cook said about Apple, right? He said it's not that we don't want to manufacture in China, but the skill set they have built there is actually valuable, right? And that skill set brings value to the nation, right? Similarly, I think if you really are concerned about the value chain, about the farmers, about sustainability as a consumer, I think buying direct from origin is the best thing you can do, because that is how you retain value, and that share, gets distributed to stakeholders, which actually are these farmers, right? So I think that's really our positioning in this space. So while everybody is hopefully doing a great job, but I think, when you buy from a VAHDAM, I think there is a certain advantage which we are able to transfer just because we are a truly vertically integrated brand. We have distribution in a market like America, right? We have an office, we have a team, we have distribution there where we have our consumers, but at the same time, we are based at where these products are sourced. So for me, a typical day is talking to our farmers or our partners in the morning and talking to our customers in the evening, right? That's what I do every day. And I think that's very, very powerful, not only for consumers to get a better quality product, but also to get a product which truly helps cut out these unnecessary middlemen who eat up the farmer's share, and sort of try and give that value as much as possible to the farmers.
And as far as the environment goes, do you think that cutting out the middleman also has a greater impact on sustainability? And you've mentioned that you're climate and plastic neutral. I mean, do you have any insight on how companies can do better in terms of environmental waste?
Right. So I think, Olivia, I don't know how much impact cutting out middlemen has on the environment. Of course, your entire footprint, if I could look at it, right, I think your entire carbon footprint obviously increases with every hand being exchanged. And, but that's the only argument I can think there. But I think overall, I think sustainability from an environment perspective is, I think, a much larger sort of conversation around, your product sourcing, your packaging, the way you sort of build the business. And I think there, of course, like I said, right, I mean, there is still not enough technology in the world to have products which are absolutely plastic free, because, at the same time, consumers expect a product which is fresh, which is safe, and for that, while we are a part of multiple organizations, right? The India Plastic Pact, which is the largest pact with some of the biggest companies here who are working together to find solutions. We work with a lot of global supply chain packaging providers and interact with them very, very regularly to understand and find solutions. But at the same time, there are, for example, I'll give you a small example to ensure that we vacuum pack our loose leaf teas, right? Which ensures that the product are super fresh, super safe. We have to use a certain amount of MET in our outside material, right? The flexi packaging, which, and to solve for that, as of today, we obviously recycle. But of course, the long-term vision is that we reduce the packaging also, and ultimately, hopefully, go to a world which is plastic free over the next several years. But till then, of course, we continue to sort of recycle and offset our impact through our packaging. And of course, every year we are reducing that. And the similar thing, you would find, Olivia, for our carbon footprint. Right? Unfortunately, when you sell and build a consumer brand, right, you have to be, not unfortunately, I think, you have to be where the consumers are, right? You need to be at a retail store, you need to be on Amazon, you need to be on Walmart, you need to be on all these places, right? And when,
I saw you just went into the CVS
yes, we
market.
launched into CVS as well
Mhm.
nationally. And when you are there, there is a certain climate carbon footprint you have, right, in terms of delivering the product to them. When you do doorstep delivery through e-commerce, of course, there is a carbon footprint there. So again, the idea is, while we work with some of our partners to reduce that year on year, till we are not able to do that, let's just ensure that we offset it. So as a company, we are net not adding any drastic impact to the environment, right? That's really how we look at it, and very, very honestly talk about it also.
Right, right. I think it just comes down to how much you care about it and how much you're willing to problem solve, because it's a very complicated topic that obviously you'll never get zero carbon footprint ever. And I wish that was the case, but I would love to go to a world that's zero plastic waste eventually.
Absolutely, absolutely, exactly. I think bang on, like what you just said. That's really the thesis with which we work with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go back to something you said previously. I was reading an interview that you did last year with Economic Times, and you were talking about hustle culture, and you kind of explained that previously, but you also were kind of saying that it totally isn't your style and you like to prioritize a work life balance. Do you think that mindset is necessary for success?
Got it. I think, Olivia, I think I'll start by answering this question and saying that I'll say that, one, everybody has their own path, and this is of course a very, very personal opinion, right? And also stems from my own journey, right? And I think, when I speak to entrepreneurs, I see different types of people, and it also depends where you are in your life cycle, how important is a certain goal for you, what's your background, what's your previous history. I think a lot of the it's not that as black and white. I think it's slightly gray. But I'll tell you my perspective here. I think I started when I was a 23-year-old, and I was a single founder. I raised my first round of capital 2 years later, right? So it's been a very, very intensive journey, right? When you raise venture capital, when you have other stakeholders, you are responsible for them as well,
Mhm.
right? And I have had years or months, right? I remember I had this stretch of 6, 7 months where I didn't take a Sunday off as well, right? So I legit like worked for 8 months together. But in that point of my
Mhm.
time, in that time, in point of my life, in my journey at VAHDAM, I think that was needed, right? But today, and once we have been able to stabilize things and all of that, I think today I realize two, three things. One, if you have to do something like this for the next 10, 20, 30 years, right? If you want to crash and burn, of course, you go all in, right? But if you have to do something more sustainably, try and do it for a longer period of time. Now it's been 8 years, right? And if I have to do this for the next several years, right, or decades, there needs to be some balance, right? And I think with that, what we have realized
Mhm.
is that my thesis is that, how do you bring work life harmony, right? How do you sort of bring a certain harmony in your work, in your work and in your personal life, is, I think, so important to be sustainable in what you're trying to do, right?
Mhm.
So even today, why, and I understand that's my answer on the hustle culture, right? I think whenever it's needed, you sort of step in and sort of get that thing done. But it's not something which should become the norm, right? It should not be something you're doing 24/7, 12 months a
Right.
year. So that's one thesis we have been able to build. And I personally sort of, it's worked wonderfully for me, right? Whenever the need of the hour is, I will go all in, I will do whatever it takes and step in and sort of fix
Mhm.
that. But overall, I try and balance things. Second, I think, Olivia, I think my point here is that a lot of companies tend to sort of glorify hustle culture, and hustle culture just for the sake of hustle, right? I mean, you would need to
Mhm.
genuinely need something in 5 days. It's okay if you do it and deliver it on the fourth day. You don't need to do it on a Sunday night and deliver it, right? So hustle for the
Mhm.
sake of hustle is something I just don't understand. But hustle for the sake of a certain business need, right? A certain temporary business need or a certain midterm business need, I think that's absolutely justifiable, right? And that's really the two things I now follow in my journey, which has made me sort of come out of any sort of burnout which you can get as an entrepreneur building a business over several years. And with that, I believe, with these two
Yep.
theses, I believe I can sort of hopefully do this for many, many more years with a smile on my face, and also enjoy the journey. So
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a really eloquent way of putting it, for sure. And I think when the hustling bleeds into the work-life balance that you're trying to get, that's where the problem lies. But for the aspiring entrepreneurs out there and small business owners or just people in general, really, if you could go back and give yourself advice before you kind of started the company, let's say you were a teenager or you were in college, what would you say?
got it. So I think, Olivia, I think my biggest insight from my journey, and I think now I can connect the dots with any success story, right? And you'll be able to sort of do that as well.
Mm.
Is ultimately, I think everything is a result of persistence, right? I think most successful entrepreneurs, you would see most successful businessmen, most successful people around you. I don't think they are necessarily, in most cases, they are definitely not the smartest in the room, right? But they are definitely the most persistent. They are somebody who can get up every day,
Okay.
work hard in their capacity, and do that over several days, months, years, whatever, right? Even if it's rainy outside, it's bright sunshine outside, they have this power to sort of get up and keep going. And I think that's really the biggest factor of success. Of course, being at the right place at the right time, choosing the right industry, hiring the right team, doing the right things, all of that, of course, is important, right? But if fundamentally, if you have to sort of, build an overlining thesis, I think it's ultimately comes down to persistence. And I actually see that a lot of times where, a lot of young entrepreneurs would give up very quickly, right? Just before they were about to achieve some massive success, right? And so my only sense is that, have the ability to be persistent, right? Don't think entrepreneurship is something, it's not a lottery where you would, make or do something, make a lot of money or do something. It's in most cases, 99% startups fail. In fact, the number is higher now. 99.5% startups fail, right?
Wow.
It's a very, very tough,
Okay.
lonely journey, right? So just come in with a mindset that you want to give it a certain amount of years, and persistence will be critical. And if you can do that, right, if you can do that well, I think there are high chances you will succeed, right? And now when you connect the dots, right, I mean, if you look at Jeff Bezos, right, I mean, I think now, of course, last 5-7 years, people, he's been in the limelight, his wealth has gone up, he's, Amazon is profitable, and so many good things which have come in about him. But if you really see his journey, this guy's actually delivered for 10, 15, 20 years, when everybody was writing him off, right? And he sort of very, very confidently has gotten up,
Right.
done the same thing over 2 decades. And that's really why that has happened. Look at Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk is not an overnight success. Tesla is a company built persistently over 15 years. I don't know, 10, 12, 13 years, 2008, whatever, 12, 13 years. It's only the last 3-4 years where we see, Tesla succeeding. So I think persistence, that to any other. Look at, I think my favorite example is from my favorite book and one of my most favorite entrepreneurs of all time, Phil Knight's Shoe Dog, right? I mean,
Okay.
just read that book, right? You will realize what persistence is. And if you keep going, I mean, he was a guy who was persistent over several decades, right? So many setbacks, and still he was persistent, and look at what he's built. So I think all stories at some level, you might see somebody starting a company and that company becoming a unicorn in like 2 years, but people don't see their background, right? He or she has definitely failed 10, 15 times before starting that new company. So I think it all comes down to being persistent. And that's what I always advise, if I could put it like that, to all young entrepreneurs who come and ask me about how to sort of approach entrepreneurship or anything in life. So
Yeah, I've talked about this on this podcast before too, but I think it's just a different culture now where quick success is more popularized, and it's just kind of we expect everything at a snap, and the patience is kind of lacking. So when we do take that leap or try to be an entrepreneur, after 5 months, it's not working. We're like, okay, we're done. We're going to try something else. because this society also promotes creativity and we could kind of reach for the stars and things. So we think, oh, if we're going to be done after 5 or so months, let's try something new and maybe that'll be successful, and then quit that, and so on and so forth. So I think it just comes down to quick success, but if you keep consistent and persistent, like you said, I think any aspiring
Absolutely.
entrepreneur will be successful in their own right. And everyone defines
Exactly.
success differently
Yeah.
as well. So that's an entirely different layer too. I'm going to ask you some easy questions
Thank God.
now that are kind of beverage and food related. So what is your go-to tea? What are you drinking right
I'm
now?
actually right now drinking a turmeric ashwagandha. So I had a long day, and the VAHDAM
Okay.
turmeric ashwagandha is one of my favorites. I'm just sort of,
Mhm.
settling down with this amazing blend. It's actually one of my favorites as well.
Yum. What's your best-selling tea? I'm curious.
Our best-selling teas actually are turmeric range of teas. This is a very unique range of teas we had launched,
Oh,
and very new
okay.
to the market, and they are now our best-selling blends.
Okay. I saw you did some really cool collabs too. One with Emily in Paris, and then one with Nicole. I don't actually know how to pronounce her name. Maybe I should have looked that up
Nicole
after.
Scherzinger, yeah, Nicole Scherzinger in the UK, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. How did you go about choosing the right partnerships for your brand? Is there a lot of thought that kind of goes behind that, or do you try to go with the current trends?
So I think Olivia, overall, I think we've been fortunate and blessed to sort of been recommended by some very popular folks, right? Right from being on the Oprah's Favorite Things multiple times, being on the Ellen Show, doing something with Mariah Carey, Nicole Scherzinger. All of these partnerships, one thing I want to tell you is, are all organic partnerships. They are not paid partnerships. We've not paid them
Mhm.
anything. Even with Nicole, we launched this box, which was more like a revenue share model, right? More than anything, because they were fans
Okay.
of the brand, right? So one thing good about being a consumer brand is,
Okay.
you can get to sample it to people, and if they and it's a product you can taste and understand and experience it. And I think we've been fortunate that a lot of folks have loved it. Uh, and that's really how all
Mhm.
these partnerships have come about, right? Even Mariah Carey happened like that. When we launched a limited edition Christmas gift with her and Nicole. I think the Emily in Paris was an interesting one.
Mhm.
That's more like that's a
Yeah.
first franchisee deal we did, right? I mean, we always, for us, we know our TG, right? For us, we wanted to get to the right TG and expand our audience. And then we said, how do
Mhm.
we partner with somebody who is relevant to us and is also the consumer who's buying VAHDAM, right? And that's really, and when we talked about pop culture and the most popular show which we believe could connect to, the answer was a no-brainer, and it was in Emily in Paris. We spoke to our
Mhm.
customers, everybody had seen
Mhm.
this show, and we said it just makes sense to partner with them and launch a range of unique blends and teas and all of that. So we then partnered with Paramount Pictures, and we have the global rights of Emily in Paris as a business globally. And we are doing a lot of interesting stuff, launching products, with them, and that's really how this partnership came about, right? So
Yeah, I think that's really smart. I mean, Emily in Paris was a huge thing. I'm also a writer, so we were covering a ton of that when it came out as well. All right, I'm going to go back to a general food question for you. What's a spice that you can't live without?
uh, I think has to be cardamom. I actually personally love cardamom. I think it's one, of course, it's very
Mm-hmm.
healthy for you. And I think, secondly, I think it just goes with everything, right? And being an Indian, born and brought up in India, right from your tea to your curries to
Mm-hmm.
your, even your coffee, and there's so many things you can do with cardamom. So I think my favorite has to be cardamom, even though there's a long list of Indian spices, which we all consume every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually saw that. Did you coin International Turmeric Day?
We did,
Was
we did,
that
we
you?
did.
Okay?
So
How did you go about
So,
doing
Olivia, I
that?
think there, honestly, for us as a business, I keep sharing this anecdote that at one of the food conferences a few years back in the US, somebody asked me that, Bala, hey, do you think turmeric is a fad? Is it a trend? It's like, what do you think it is? And I'm like, no, it is not a trend. It's not a
Uh-huh.
fad. I'm an Indian, and I've been having turmeric for 5,000 years, right? When we break bones, we have
Mhm.
turmeric. When we have gastric problems, we have turmeric. When we have pain, when we have body pain, we have turmeric. I mean, turmeric is genuinely a golden spice. It's a healing spice. It's something, of course, there have been many clinical studies which have proven that. But I think the biggest thing is, we have actually seen it as a wellness remedy in Indian homes for several centuries, to be honest, right? And I think I very early on we realized that we need to sort of give turmeric the place it deserves, and educate consumers about the true benefits of turmeric, right? And I think nobody better than VAHDAM to do that, because we come from India. India makes 80% of the world's turmeric. Getting the right authentic turmeric is also very important. Educating them about the benefits, the true benefits of turmeric is also very important. And we said, let's actually celebrate this amazing ingredient by having a day where we can actually do so many exciting things globally. And that's how the idea of Turmeric Day came about last year. And we celebrated it again this year on 8th of October. We have a week-long celebration going on as we speak, where we have fabulous deals. We've launched a lot of new products. We're doing a lot of activations, and then we hopefully will try to make it bigger and bigger every year.
That's amazing. Yeah, it all comes down to education, because a lot of people don't know the benefits of spices or anything that comes behind that. So I would love to learn more about that too. Even I'm not as well novice, or I'm more novice than I'd like to be in that. So let's talk about what's next for you. Do you have any upcoming project you'd like to share? Maybe anything else going on with the company?
Got it. No, so Olivia, I think we opened our first experience store globally in New Delhi. I think very interesting choice to do it in India, but we opened it in the iconic Khan Market in Delhi. So that's a big step up for us as we now start going more omni-channel. We were always a digital first brand. We got into retail 3 years back, so that's been doing very well. And now, of course, with our first experience store, we want to hopefully open more than one in the US, hopefully very soon. Over the next 12 to 18 months, I'm hoping, if not before. So that's one big development which happened. This is as recent as 3 weeks back. Apart from that, I think, Olivia, just getting up for the holiday season, for the winter season. I think as a brand, I think we've gotten a lot of customer love for our products. And from a strategy perspective, I think, Olivia, we just want to go deeper and get to more and more consumers with our products, right? So we have done teas for 8 years, and we believe we have so much more to do in teas, go deeper with our consumers, get more of our consumers to have a range of turmeric teas, get them introduced to this amazing range of turmeric teas and tell them about the benefits of it. And of course, like, as you're aware, right, we launched spices 3-4 months back, right, officially. So now, of course, how do we sort of build our spices category is really what we are focusing on over the next few months, in the short term, midterm, as a business.
Amazing. For the store that would open in the US, do you have any ideas for a location on that yet? If you can't disclose it, that's totally fine. But
still very early on, I think, Olivia, but hopefully in the East Coast. I think we might do it either in New York or LA. I think that's really the two cities we'll choose from. But I think still very early there. I think we're trying to make a playbook with the first store we have opened, understand what consumers want, build a playbook, make it a success, and then go to the next level and sort of open the first experience store in the US, but hopefully in New York or LA.
Well, and actually, my family's from the East Coast, so I can go to either one. So let me know.
Oh, lovely. You'll be the first to know.
Thank you. I saw some fun holiday options too you have an advent calendar, I think. So that would be great for like gift guides and things like that too. So that should be really fun. And congratulations on everything you're doing.
Thank you, Olivia. No, absolutely. Our gifts are very important. I think we said, I think, we genuinely believe people gift the brands they really love to friends and family every year during the holidays, which I'm sure you're aware. So I thought, we always wanted to sort of have a range of gifts with our blends. And, absolutely, we have a range of Christmas gifts, advent calendars, holiday gifts, which are out there now. And we're very, very excited to sort of, get it to our consumers over the next couple of months.
Love that. Amazing. So I Have a short game for you if you're up for it, kind of to wrap everything up. I do it with all of my guests. So I will
Let's do it.
say I'm going to do beverage edition because it pertains to your company. But I will say 5 beverages that you will tell me if you're kind of for or against, if that makes sense.
Sure. Okay, let's do it.
First one.
Sounds interesting.
Okay, cool. First one, chai latte.
For, of course, I'm an Indian. We've grown up having tea with milk. Just do it the right way. Like, call chai latte the true chai. Make it the right way. Don't. But otherwise, I think it's just fabulous. So yes.
Amazing. All right, number 2, black coffee.
Yes, I mean, sometimes you do need the caffeine kick on a good day, but I mean, just keep it occasional.
I love
Not
it.
the healthiest thing you can put in your body.
I don't drink coffee, and everyone always asks me how I stay awake during the day. I take short naps. So for everyone listening, that's what I do. Third, so green tea lemonade. It's a popular Starbucks drink.
I've not tried it, to be honest, Olivia. So I'm going to try it next time I'm in the US later this month.
Okay.
But sounds like a yes. Sounds like a yes.
Okay, it's good. I get it all the time. It's just an extra twist to like green tea. Number 4, hot chocolate.
No, but since Christmas is around, you can make an exception for the next 2 months.
Okay. These are all very Americanized beverages, if you didn't notice that. All right, number 5, pumpkin spice latte.
Yes, I think, we have this amazing pumpkin spice latte. So if you have to really do it, go and check out the VAHDAM's pumpkin spice latte on Amazon. But I think it's festive. It adds color to the festivity. So definitely, but try ours.
Okay, love it. I definitely will. And I have my final question for you. This is something I ask everyone too. I know you're not a chef or anything, but if there is one cooking, kitchen appliance or utensil that you think everyone should splurge on, what would it be and why?
That's an interesting question. I've actually, in India, we just have a pan, Olivia. A non-stick pan, and we can make any and every dish on that, right? Because it's not the equipment, but the spices and the quality of the spices, which is more important. So I would stick to that pan, and we just do everything I want to on that. So I'll buy that.
Okay, love it. A good non-stick pan could solve all your problems. All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time out and coming on. This was a really amazing conversation, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Olivia, for having me.
Of course. So you can follow Bala on Instagram at Bala Sarda, and let me know if I'm pronouncing anything incorrectly.
That was absolutely right.
Okay, good. Or VAHDAM India at VAHDAM India. You can also check out their website, vahdam.com. Hey, fellow foodies. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave me a review. And while you're at it, make sure to follow me at Livvin for Food Pod on Instagram or TikTok, or email me at livvinforfoodpod@gmail.com. Let me know what you're cooking up this week, which guests you would like to see on the podcast, or tell me your opinions on the latest viral food trend. Until next time,